Mindset has become a very fashionable word. Everybody wants to use it. There are leaders who use this word in the boardroom and in town halls to explain what's the next big theme that we should be working on. Managers want to use it to explain performance or the lack of it. We often use it in top talent conversations to identify who needs to get promoted or who's the champion. There are some of us who use it between each other to take control of our relationships. Podcasts are talking about this. Authors are writing books. Psychologists are popularizing this. Scientists are bringing up concepts about mindsets. But there are very few people who are calling attention to the real ground that lies beneath this. And we will speak about this. But before I get there, I want you to, number one, as you listen to me, leave some of your learnings in the comment section of the video. And here, note down 3 questions for yourself. At the end of the video, I will again address these questions. The first question for you, who is the real you? The second question, how is the real you feeling? The third question, what is the real you doing? So who's the real you, how's the real you feeling, and what's the real you doing? And I'll come back, like I said, and address these questions. Now, let's focus on mindset and let's focus on us. And each one of us has these different versions of us. There is this one version of us which our parents raised. Some photocopy, some cut, copy, paste version of our parents we are. Is that the version whose mindset needs to be upgraded? All of us also have this appreciation about ourselves of who we are. Some of us think we are a victim, others think that we are a complete champion, and everything in between comes up in different people's stories. So is that the person whose mindset needs to be upgraded? Our spouses, our children will talk about us in a certain way. Is that the person whose mindset needs to be upgraded? We also have survived our lives. Is that the person whose mindset needs to be upgraded? And many of us today live in the cages of our career, the so-called job, and our identity is completely dependent on it. Is that the version of us whose mindset needs to be upgraded? So there are all of these combinations, and that's why some little work on mindset with some cut, copy, paste formula really doesn't work. Mindset is very superficial. It's very surface level. And that brings me to the first rule that I want you to take back from here, that mindset is an output, it's an outcome, it's not the source. The source really is a lot of our own programming, our upbringings, our beliefs, our fears, our ambitions, our emotional memories, the way our brain reacts, the way that we have been conditioned by millions of moments in our life, some reinforcing, some taking us in very scattered directions, and all the confusions, the stories, the narratives that we carry. So that's what the source is. So remember the first rule, that mindset is just an outcome. The source is somewhere else. And that also brings us to the second very important rule that you need to remember, that you don't shift your mindset with affirmations and exercises. It really doesn't shift. Because look, at the end of the day, affirmations and exercises are merely language and they're constructions in our mind. The shift of mindset requires deep work at the source level. We need to go back, and those emotional memories, those recordings, those episodes that we have, we need to look at that. We need to deconstruct some of that and see who we are being in the various things. So what are those episodes because of which we are a certain kind of leader, certain kind of human, certain kind of partner, certain kind of parent? We need to deconstruct those, reflect on those, and do a lot of deep healing work. Let's remember, some of this deep healing work is very painful. For many people it's boring, for some it's daunting, for some they don't know how to go there, and that's why many people don't do it, and which is why the solution is what? There is a bunch of tools that we have available, everything from self-help books on healing, and there are good subjects like transactional analysis itself, which tells you how to work with you, or there is rich literature available in REBT. In fact, there are 2 books that I would love to recommend to you. One is I Am Okay, You Are Okay by Thomas Harris. You must work with that. Or there is this wonderful book called Rational Living, which talks about a lot of the REBT constructs A Guide to Rational Living. I remember the name now. A Guide to Rational Living, which gives you a very big grounding on how to understand your emotions and synthesize them. But it doesn't just end there. My recommendation, find a coach, find some training program, some long-term course, process labs, counselor, therapist, etc. So the second pillar is very important for you to work on, that source code that we are talking about. And let me now spill the bean. When in the title I said the mindset is something everybody is talking about, but nobody is talking about this, that this is identity. That this is also our inner devil that is sitting. And that's what needs to be worked on, the source code deep within us. But it doesn't end here. There's a third rule and a couple of others for you. The third rule is what? Why are we doing all this work at the deep level? It is being done because the nervous system decides our mindset much before our mind does. Now, in your mind, you can have some affirmation saying, be positive, do this, smile, make eye contact, pause, look at this. So there are different kind of affirmations that are given in different programs. Everything from growth mindset to the millionaire mindset will teach you affirmations, of abundance, of this, that, and the other. But you know what? When your nervous system kicks in, when that nervous system takes hold of the feeling of lack of safety or being prosecuted, it is going to immediately shut out your cognitive mind. No matter what your cognitive mind is saying, no matter what is the power of your cognitive mind, no matter what you've been taught, no matter which book you have read, which author is influencing you, if your nervous system takes a grip of you in a negative fashion, boom, it's gone. You will not be able to practice that growth mindset, that ownership mindset, that love approach or the compassionate approach or the contract that you created. None of that is going to work. So again, that deep healing work is required so that your nervous system doesn't react badly. That's the third important pillar that you need to keep in mind. The next thing that you also need to keep in mind is all this talk about and all the mumbo jumbo about mindset, different frameworks or different processes which you are being sold or you are being taught will make you a champion. That set of mindset without real self-awareness, or as we say, a combination of social intelligence, emotional intelligence and spiritual intelligence, unless that intelligence comes, you will only have an altered ego. Somebody snipped around, shaped up, done some origami work with your ego, and that's it. Your old dysfunctions will still stay. You will be an upgraded version of yourself. You are retooled. You are literally just retooled. Instead of a screwdriver in your hand, you have a hammer. Or instead of a hammer and a screwdriver, you have a power saw. Or, you understand the metaphor that I'm leaving to you. You will just be retooled. If you're going to do mindset work without real self-awareness and self-change, that altered ego is just an upgraded, confident self, and many times foolhardy. The same old dysfunctions will show up, which is why what I said in point 2, the deep work, the deep healing, that is so important. So remember again that the nervous system should kick in a positive fashion, otherwise mindset goes for a toss. And don't be just a retooled ego. None of that works. And that brings me to the point which I mentioned after point 2, that what we really need to do is own and sharpen our identity. Be an integrated self. Whether it's the parental recording of voices in us, or it's the inner child that really requires healing or expression, or it is the person who really needs to come out of us as a logical person. We need to be very integrated to know how we can have adult-like responsible behavior. The point is, a point of identity is being aware, being responsible, taking charge of our own life, and every single role that we have to play, and knowing what is excellence in each one of those roles and not being a cage to the inner devil. So remember this final rule for yourself, that own and sharpen your identity and tame your inner devil. That is when the winner will be born out of you. The winner who's able to handle life as it is supposed to be handled. And now that brings me to the 3 questions that I left with you. And hopefully the answer is now clear when I asked you, who is the real self? How is the real self feeling? And what is the real self doing? So if you ask it today, you will have various answers. But this is where you need to go with this. Your real self is the self that has become what it has become because of life, because of the experiences of your life. No matter what you do today, your entire life matters. Nothing that we can do to subtract a single day, a single moment of our life. Even if you don't remember something today, another trigger can bring it out at some point in time. So the real self is who? The real self is a sum total of every single moment in our life. How do we need to make that real self feel? You need to make it feel safe. You need to make it feel capable. You need to make it feel intelligent, integrated. Only then will that real self act in your favor. So do yourselves a favor. Stop all this mumbo jumbo around mindset. Read those books. Understand those processes. Affirmations are wonderful. All of those processes work. But mindset is just an outcome. That's not the level at which you need to work. You need to go into your deeper programming and do deep healing work there. That's when you become integrated. That's when your real self is dealing with your real life.